This is where they put my baby at.
Good morning, everyone. This is Gregory Stewart's mother.
We know there were several people out here. They know what happened to my son. If we don't do it, who's going to do it? So we have to do it in order to be able to get justice for our son.
Imagine if you all were in my shoes, how you would feel.
His mother gunned down on her way home from work, steps from her car in a parking garage near the Dome at America Center. Tonight News 4 is pushing for answers.
Every morning for 3 years, Latia Stewart posted the same kind of video. Good morning, everyone. This is Gregory Stewart's mother. Same greeting, same desperation, same plea for help that nobody was answering. She knew people saw what happened. She said it herself. There were witnesses. Multiple people who watched her son die and chose silence over justice.
We know there were several people out here. They know what happened to my son.
3 years of begging strangers on Facebook to grow a conscience. 3 years of please come forward. 3 years of do the right thing. And then one day, she was walking to her car after a 20-year shift at the Marriott, and somebody put 3 bullets in her. The killer, a homeless man living in the parking garage. A man who chose to keep his gun instead of selling it for food. A man who just happened to shoot the one woman in all of St. Louis who'd been making enemies on social media for 3 straight years. The police called it random right, because that's how random works. You accidentally shoot the most famous grieving mother in East St. Louis, who just happens to have a long list of people who want her to shut up. Now, before we go any further, we need to talk about who Gregory Stewart actually was. Not the version his mama posted about on Facebook. The real one, Gregory Hakeem Stewart. 31 years old, 5 kids, different mothers. Went by Lil Georgia in the rap scene.
Real life, so I gotta get it right. While I see it back, trying to get my life right.
And I use the word scene generously, because outside of East St. Louis, nobody knew who this man was. His record label, GMF 1504, had been running for years. You ever heard of it? No? Exactly. Look, I'm not knocking the hustle. Everybody's got dreams. But when you're 31 with 5 kids to feed and you're still waiting for your rap career to pop off, at some point, reality needs to enter the chat. May 29th, 2020. Actually, let me correct myself. It was May 28th, late at night, technically the 29th by the time he died. Gregory gets a call to come to a house in the 2400 block of Bond Avenue. Now, for those of you who don't know East St. Louis, let me paint you a picture without saying, picture this. Bond Avenue is where hope goes to die. This block has seen more shootings than a gun range. The grass grows tall because even the lawnmowers are scared to come through. It's 11:30 at night. Gregory shows up to this house where there's already a crowd. An acquaintance's house, according to police reports. You know what we call acquaintances, whose houses you visit at midnight in East St. Louis. Your plug or your problem? Sometimes both. According to witnesses. And remember, these are the same witnesses who suddenly got amnesia when police showed up. An altercation broke out. Then somebody who'd been hiding in the bushes, jumped out and shot Gregory. Let me say that again for the people in the back. The shooter was already there, waiting, in the bushes, with a gun, at 11:30 at night. That's not a random shooting. That's an appointment with death that Gregory didn't know he had scheduled. When Latia Stewart got that call, the one every mother in East St. Louis prays never comes, something inside her broke. But instead of breaking down, she broke bad. She started simple enough. a Facebook page called Justice for Gregory Stewart. Normal grieving mother stuff. But Latia wasn't built for normal. Within weeks, she had a YouTube channel, a Twitter account, an Instagram page.
Good morning, everyone. This is Gregory Stewart's mother. My son was murdered in East St. Louis, Illinois, May the 29th of 2020. I'm desperately reaching out to the community for help in solving the murder of my son. Imagine if this week, if you all were in my shoes, how you would feel. Today it's me, but tomorrow it could possibly be you in the same shoes as I'm in today.
A Change.org petition. She was working social media like a full-time job, except instead of selling workout tees or cryptocurrency scams, she was selling one message. Somebody knows who killed my son, and they better speak up. And here's where Latia made her first mistake. She assumed the internet cared about justice as much as she did. She'd post every morning, "Good morning, everyone," like she was hosting a talk show nobody asked for. "This is Gregory Stewart's mother," as if people forgot from yesterday's post. "I'm desperately reaching out to the community." The community. The same community that watched her son get shot and suddenly developed collective blindness. But Latia wasn't stupid. She knew exactly what she was dealing with. This is East St. Louis, where snitches get stitches isn't just a cute rhyme. It's a promise written in blood. Where witnesses disappear faster than tax refunds. Where the code of silence is stronger than the Constitution. She knew all this, and she posted anyway.
We know there were several people out here. They know what happened to my son.
And tell the truth so that these murderers can be held accountable for what they did. They can be arrested, charged, and held accountable.
By year 2, Latia had evolved. She wasn't just posting memorial photos and prayer hands emojis anymore. She'd become something else entirely. A one-woman investigation unit running on Facebook algorithms and mother's rage. She started showing up at the crime scene, not just once for a memorial, multiple times, with her phone out, recording.
This is where they killed my baby at. This is the exact house. Look at the property, the grass, and how tall it is and everything. They shot him at this residence. They shot my baby at this house right here. This is where he was killed and murdered by these thugs, these people out here.
She's literally giving a tour of the murder scene on social media. The tall grass, the abandoned look, the exact spot where her son bled out. She's not just grieving, she's investigating on Facebook for everyone to see, including the killers. Now I need you all to understand something. When you post "I know who did it" every day for 2 years, one of two things is true. Either you actually know and you're choosing Facebook over the police for some reason, or you don't know, but you're hoping to scare someone into thinking you do. Either way, you're playing a dangerous game. And Latia, she was playing it without any cards. Let's talk about Detective Props for a minute. And before you ask, yes, that's his actual name. Detective Props of the Illinois State Police. Sounds like a character from a bad cop comedy. But this man was really in charge of finding Gregory's killer. 3 years. 3 years this man had the case. You know what he accomplished in 3 years? Nothing. Zero. Nada. The case was colder than a McDonald's apple pie at 3 a.m. But here's what makes me mad. And I mean actually mad. Detective Props would reassure Latia. We're working on it. These things take time. We haven't forgotten about Gregory. Meanwhile, Latatia's watching other murders get solved, watching drug dealers get arrested, watching the police somehow find resources when they want to. But for Gregory, for a black man shot at a trap house at midnight, suddenly, the entire police force has amnesia about how to investigate crime. So Latia did what any desperate mother would do in 2020. She took it to social media. She became the algorithm's most persistent pest every single day.
If we don't do it, who's going to do it? So we have to do it in order to be able to get justice for our son and closure for our family.
And she was right. If she didn't do it, nobody would. Gregory would become another statistic. Another unsolved black death in a city full of them. Another file in Detective Prop's probably empty filing cabinet. By year 3, Latia wasn't playing anymore. The posts got more aggressive. The accusations got more specific. She started dropping hints about who she suspected. Not names, she wasn't that bold, but enough details that people in the neighborhood knew who she was talking about. She organized rallies, marches, vigils. She got on podcasts, local news. She raised reward money, started at $5,000, got it up to $7,500. She printed flyers, posted billboards.
This is Gregory Stewart's mother. My son was murdered in East St. Louis, Illinois, May the 29th of 2020. I'm desperately reaching out to the community for help in solving the murder of my son. Imagine if this week, if you all were in my shoes, how you would feel. Today it's me, but tomorrow it could possibly be you in the same shoes as I'm in today.
She was becoming famous. The grieving mother who wouldn't shut up. The woman who turned her son's death into a social media crusade. Local news loved her. She was content that created itself. A grieving black mother fighting against street violence. That's ratings gold. But here's what nobody talks about when you become famous for hunting killers. The killers notice too. And they're not hitting the like button. Now I need to explain something to those of you who don't understand places like East St. Louis. There's rules. Unwritten rules that everybody knows but nobody talks about. Rule number 1, you don't talk to police. Rule number 2, you handle your own business. Rule number 3, you definitely don't put people's business on social media. Latia broke all 3, every day, publicly, with a full government name attached. She wasn't just asking for information. She was shaming people into talking.
Again, please come forward with the truth. Dig deep down in your heart. Do the right, humanly thing in God's eyesight. And come forward with the truth and help us to solve Gregory's murder.
Do the right thing in God's eyesight, she'd say. Bringing God into it like that was gonna make somebody suddenly grow a conscience after 3 years. The truth, in East St. Louis, where the truth will literally get you killed. But here's the thing, and this is important, Latia wasn't naive. She knew the rules. She'd lived in this community her whole life. She'd seen what happens to snitches. She'd been to enough funerals to know how this story usually ends. She did it anyway. Why? Because what's the alternative? Let your baby's killer walk free. Pretend you don't care. Move on like Gregory never existed. For a mother, that's not an option. Even if speaking up signs your own death warrant. 3 years. 3 years of Latia begging for help. 3 years of somebody knows something. 3 years of silence from a community that definitely knew exactly what happened that night. Because here's the truth nobody wants to say out loud. In neighborhoods like this, everybody knows who the shooters are. It's not a mystery. It's not a cold case because of lack of information. It's a cold case because of lack of cooperation. The people who were there that night, they knew Gregory. They knew who had beef with him. They saw the shooter. They probably knew why it happened. But talking to police means you're next. Helping Latia means your mama might be making Facebook posts about your murder next year. So they stayed quiet. Watched this woman deteriorate on social media day by day. Watched her beg and plead and cry. And said nothing.
If you're watching, or if you know of someone that should be watching this, I'm asking you as a mother to please come forward through the tip line. It can be done anonymously. This has completely devastated my family.
A mother. She played that card every single day. As a mother helped me. As if being a mother was going to protect her from the consequences of breaking the code. By early 2023, something had shifted. Latatia's posts were getting more specific, more aggressive. She was done playing nice. 3 years of pleas had gotten her nowhere. She started showing up places, not just the crime scene. Other locations, houses where she thought the killers might be, public spaces where she knew they hung out. Always with her phone, always recording, always posting. The community was getting nervous, not because they cared about justice, because Latia was making the neighborhood hot. Police were asking questions. News vans were showing up. The kind of attention that's bad for business, if you know what I mean. And in East St. Louis, when you become bad for business, you become a problem that needs solving. But Latia couldn't see it. Or maybe she could and didn't care. Her son was dead. What did she have left to lose? The answer to that question would come on May 3rd, 2023. May 3rd, 2023. Latia clocked out of her shift at the Marriott at 6 p.m. 20 years she'd been making that same walk to the parking garage. 20 years without incident.
Down on her way home from work, steps from her car in a parking garage near the Dome at America Center. Tonight News 4 is pushing for answers in the death of hotel worker Latia Stewart. Right now, detectives are working to find who pulled the trigger in the second homicide downtown in the span of a week.
And the Stewart family has already been victimized by violence. Latatia's son Gregory was murdered in 2020. That case remains unsolved. Since then, Latia has devoted her life to finding his killer.
3 bullets. That's all it took. 3 bullets to silence 3 years of Facebook posts. The shooter? Deshaun King Wilson. 35 years old. Homeless. Living in that exact parking garage like it was a studio apartment he wasn't paying for. And here's where this story goes from tragic to suspicious. This man had been sleeping in that garage for weeks. Latia walked past him every single day. But he waits until May 3rd to shoot her. What happened on May 3rd that was different from May 2nd? Or April 30th? Or any other day she walked to her car? I'll tell you what was different. Latia had just raised the reward money to $7,500. She'd just done another podcast. She was getting louder, more specific, more dangerous to whoever killed Gregory. But sure, random homeless violence. That's the story we're going with. Let me tell you about Deshaun Wilson, because this man's story makes less sense than a screen door on a submarine. He's homeless, sleeping on concrete, eating from trash cans. But he's got a gun, a working gun with bullets. You know what that gun could buy? Food for a month, a room, a shower, a chance. But Deshawn kept the gun, like it was his most prized possession. Like it was more important than eating. His own mother, and this is wild, his own mother told the media he'd been traumatized since age 13 when someone robbed him at gunpoint. Never recovered. Been mentally ill ever since. So the courts knew he was mentally ill. Knew he was violent. He was out on bond for assault with a deadly weapon. They let him out anyway. And when he kills Latia, everybody acts surprised. But here's the question that keeps me up at night. And if you're smart, it should bother you too. After Deshawn killed Latia on May 3rd, he shot 2 more people on May 4th. Random men in the same garage. Then on May 5th, he waved his gun at a couple. Why did he start with Latia? If this was really random violence, why was the grieving mother with 1,000 enemies his first victim? The police caught Deshawn on May 5th after he tried to rob that couple. Captain Ben Wast, another winner in the name department, held a press conference, said the attacks weren't targeted, said Deshawn was just a homeless man having a bad week. A bad week? This man murdered a woman and shot 2 others, and they're calling it a bad week, like he got fired from Walmart. But Latatia's family wasn't buying it. Her mother, Minnie Gilbert, stood at that same press conference and said what everybody was thinking. My daughter was killed because she wouldn't stop looking for her son's killer. The police disagreed. Of course they did. Because admitting Latia was targeted means admitting they failed to protect her. Means admitting that making noise on social media gets you killed. Means admitting that in East St. Louis, the killers have more power than the police. Now, I'm not usually one for conspiracy theories, but when the facts don't add up, you got to ask questions. Theory 1. Somebody paid Deshawn. Told him Latia was the reason for his problems. Pointed him in her direction. Maybe gave him the gun. Maybe just gave him a reason. Theory 2. Deshawn was already paranoid and somebody just whispered the right words. That lady's been talking to police. She's the reason they're around here. She's making problems for everybody. Theory 3. Pure coincidence. The most hated woman in East St. Louis just happened to be randomly murdered by a mentally ill man who just happened to live in her parking garage, right when she was getting close to solving her son's murder. Which one sounds most believable to you? Drop it in the comments because I genuinely want to know what y'all think. Both murders remain unsolved. Let that sink in. Gregory's been dead for over 3 years. Latatia's been dead for months. 2 murders. 0 arrests for Gregory's killing. 1 arrest for Latatia's. But Deshawn isn't talking about why he did it. The community that stayed silent about Gregory. They're still silent about whether Latia was really randomly targeted. Detective Props? Probably still working on it. And those Facebook pages Latia created? They're still up, frozen in time. Her last post still asking for justice, still begging for someone to come forward. The comment sections filled with RIPS now. The same people who wouldn't help when she was alive are posting prayer hands emojis now that she's dead. So here's what I need you to think about. And if this story made you feel some type of way, hit that subscribe button because we cover cases like this every week. The ones that don't make sense, the ones that make you mad, the ones that need to be talked about. Was Latia wrong for putting everything on social media? Or was she just a desperate mother doing the only thing she could? Should the community have helped her, even if it meant risking their own lives? Or were they smart to stay quiet? And the biggest question, if your child was murdered and the police did nothing, how far would you go? Would you risk your life for justice? Or would you let it go? Because Latia made her choice. And whether you think she was brave or foolish, you can't deny one thing. She loved her son more than she loved her own life. If there's a lesson in this story, it's this. The system is broken. When mothers have to become Facebook detectives because real detectives won't do their jobs. When homeless men with mental illness and guns are walking free. When speaking up about murder gets you murdered. That's not justice. That's barely even civilization. Latia Stewart died, believing someone would eventually tell the truth about her son's death. She died wrong, but at least she died fighting. And maybe that's all any of us can do. Fight until we can't anymore. Like this video if Latatia's story hits you different. Comment below what you would have done in her situation. And subscribe if you want to hear more stories that will make you question everything about our so-called justice system. Because these stories need to be told. Even when they don't have happy endings. Especially when they don't have happy endings. Gregory Stewart, dead at 31. Latia Stewart, dead at 56. Justice for either of them? Dead on arrival.